Hello, and welcome to Talk.Therapy.Heal, where a group of licensed professionals have curated conversations on life's challenges. Join us today for this month's session. Hello, I'm Larissa Perlow.
Hi, I'm Kenny King.
Hi, I'm Rachel Logan. And I'm Yanika Willis, known as Nikki.
And I am Chantrell King. So thank you for joining us again for another episode. It has been rolling, and we are enjoying the conversation. We hope that you all do as well. Now, what we are going to be speaking about for this episode, the topic, it's not good to be alone. It is not good to be alone. So really diving into that and see how that can affect our mental health.
Yes. So where do we want to go? We were kind of talking about the definitions, right? We always want to kind of give a definition for you all to understand what we mean by certain words. And so we've been kind of going back and forth with the words alone and lonely. So we got our definition.
Yeah. So let's first go with lonely, because I know people feel lonely. And so lonely means being without company, being cut off from others, or sad from being alone. Okay. So lonely sounds more feelings based. So let's look up the word alone. And alone means separated from others. Separated from others. So there's a difference from being alone, which is separated, versus lonely, feeling sad from being cut off.
It just hit me because I was trying to tell you all, I was trying to, in my brain, make it make sense to me. So lonely being emotional based.
Yes.
Alone is a physical sense. It's a physical separation. Whereas lonely, you're thinking about it here, you're feeling it or wherever you're feeling it at in your body, but alone is a physical sense of being separated. Okay. All right. I feel like now it's all making sense, right? I hope it's making sense for you all. We want to make sure we're breaking it down so it makes sense to you all what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So
Hold on. Let me give you one more definition.
Okay.
Connection. So if we're talking about, alone, being physically separated, lonely is an emotional side. I want to, because we're talking about, it's not good to be alone. So then the opposite of that is being connected. So connection means bring together or into contact. So that it's a real or natural link is established. So connection is being linked
with someone. Okay.
So just allow that to be the foundation of our conversation.
Okay.
I sit up, and that's one of the things, of course, we were talking about. Like I say, we have conversations. We get into we're like, wait a minute, we need to record this. But of course, I think about the pandemic, and that was one of the things that I was sharing with them is that during the pandemic, and even maybe a little before, I noticed what I call the spirit of cutoff. Everybody was like in the cutoff spirit. I'll cut this person off, cut that person off, or whatever the case may be, not really examining why am I cutting them off? Did they really do something to me? Or is it me? And so in that could lead to isolation. One of the most common things that I hear when I'm in session with clients is because when we as therapists are trying to find out what are your supports, who is your support system? Do you have a strong family? It's like, no, I'm not, I don't deal with them and I don't deal with friends. And then it's isolation. And the biggest complaint in that regard, I hear people say is, well, I just don't like being around people and nobody really like me and I'm difficult to put. So it's really not an examination in that. But a person finds it seems that I'm better off just alone and by myself. I'm better off just not dealing with anybody. I'm better just cutting people off. I'm good all by myself. Those are some of the things that we've even heard growing up in a lot of our families. But is that true? And how damaging can that be, or detrimental, especially when it comes to our mental health? When you may be in a crisis and going through, but if you've cut everyone off and isolated yourself, you feel alone, who helps pick you up when you're down? Who can you turn to if you've isolated yourself from everyone?
Yeah.
I don't know. That was on my brain. I'm sorry, I had to get it out. So, but just as a thought, like so then I was to your definitions, I was thinking this. So with the definition, so you said lonely. The other one was alone. And then we talked about connection, but out of lonely and alone, which one of those, if not both, is a choice that people consciously make?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Deep.
But that's what I was thinking about as y'all were speaking.
Yeah, I've worked with people in the past who chose to cut off people, right? Where they chose to be alone, and then they realize they don't like that feeling of being lonely.
That's good.
So they choose, and I think people choose to cut off people because it's a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
It's a form of like protection. Because you hurt me, I'm not gonna let you get too close to me, therefore I'm cutting you off. But then they realize over a period of time, this don't feel good, and it's not natural to be alone.
Right.
So it's a choice to be alone. And lonely can also be a choice because you can do something about it. You can then reconnect with someone so you don't have that sad, depressive feeling.
Wow.
That it's something when we're talking about just being alone and choosing that. For a lot of people, they feel like it's protecting. Right? They're protecting themselves from whatever it is that they feel like has happened. So it's kind of like we go into, and I don't want to say survival. I don't think it's the survival part that I'm thinking of in my brain, and my brain is going to give me the thought that I really want to say, or with connecting that. But I have to make sure I'm going to be okay. And so if I'm making sure that I'm going to be okay, that defense mechanism of just being alone or separating myself from people makes me feel good at the onset. But like you said, afterwards, I start to feel like, well, dang, this don't feel too good. But then I don't now I don't know how to reconnect or go out there and connect with people. And case in point, the whole thing with the pandemic. We were all isolated. We were all forced to kind of be by ourselves. And for those who lived alone, that was hard. That was really, really hard for them. But then I hear so many people that said, I became comfortable with where I was and not going anywhere and not connecting with people. And so now people are lacking social skills and learning how to reconnect or connect with one another. We use social media or digital media. I mean, that was our only way of connecting with people, right? That was our only way of talking to people, was through digital form. And now they're saying, okay, go back to work. The world is open. Go back out there and reconnect. And people are like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know. I've become comfortable because for so many years, and I feel like we were scared into being isolated.
Yes.
We were actually, that was a scare tactic to get us to isolate. I feel like that's just Nikki-isms. We were scared into it, and now they're saying, okay, no, it's good. Go out there, and people like, Tita, I don't know. And then nobody is really who they used to be. Everybody shifted during that pandemic. I mean, everybody. I know me as well. I shifted so much so I came to understand who I really was. And I'm not going to say I shifted in a negative way, because I feel like I really became in tune with me, and I became more comfortable with me, and I became more comfortable with just being with me. So now I feel like I learned that I can do without you. And I became comfortable. And And now you're saying, no, go and connect with people. Now, my mindset, because I am healed, I'm coming from a healed aspect or a healed place. I do know how to go out and create those spaces where I reconnect with people. But for those who are not, that pandemic offered them an out to get away from toxicity, right? And now you're saying, oh, it's okay, go back. And they're like, no, I'm good over here. I want to stay over here. I don't want to go over there, but I crave human connection. I crave wanting to be with someone or wanting to have a relationship, wanting to have someone be a part of my life. But now I don't know how to do it. So now it is impacting my overall well-being and my fulfillment in life.
I think for a lot of people, what we really have to get them to understand is what type of connection do you really want? Because I think we have a lot of positive people being connected to negative people, and positive and negatives aren't gonna. You're gonna have some bad
They cancel each other.
Yeah, they cancel each other out. It's funny to me that individuals may make a choice, or whether it's forced upon them through a pandemic or anything of that nature, to separate themselves, but they only do it when it's convenient for them.
That's convenient.
Sometimes when it's convenient, and then they'll use that same conveniency when it comes to connecting in other ways. And the reason why I say that is that Nikki has an iPhone, I have an Android. That will split us because we're different. But the minute we run out of power, as long as you got a port that I can use to get energized, that's all that makes the difference. Who can I connect to get energy? And for me, y'all know I like my analogies. And stuff. This is one of the biggest connections that it is, and I believe that people need to stay connected in this manner, is that you've got one big power supply that you can plug into. And if other individuals plug into it, they can get energy from that. So you can get your phone charged, your phone, whatever the case may be. The problem comes is when you overload. When you let too many people plug into you. Nothing wrong with if you say you want to isolate for a while, stay alone, be alone. But if you let too many people plug into you, does it cause damage because now you're being overloaded? And so people will say that they're depleted, but if they say, do you have a cord I can borrow? And it's funny that they'll borrow that cord from people, but when you try to offer them assistance and they're not being lonely so they can stay connected, all of a sudden they don't want it. So they make choices of how they're going to be alone.
So that goes back to the defense.
Yeah, it could be a defense mechanism.
Wow.
Survival mode.
Yeah.
You know, something that I wrote down, I've seen this question so much yet again on social media. And I don't want to, because somebody may get offended, but so here lately, you see a lot of videos of individuals overly sharing their body features. Let me say that, okay? Trying to be really professional and nice about it. And so people in the comments is like, why are they doing this? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? It wasn't to you all that was just speaking where I was like, oh my God, it hit me. I isolate myself because I feel comfortable behind a camera. Yet I crave attention. So I will go to extremes to have some type of connection, even if it's not if it's not positive and it's going to bring toxicity. So, case in point, someone who overshares their body, and this ain't everybody, I'm just saying, don't be trying to come for us, but I'm just using it as a common day example. You overshare your body because you isolate. You feel powerful because you're behind a camera. Nobody's with you, you know, but you're getting the attention that you crave, even though that attention is negative, and or beyond that, you may pick up a couple of stalkers or two. People who say, I'm so fixated and fascinated with what you're presenting, but the person who's presenting it actually have probably some type of issues that they wrestle with because I want this connection so bad. I don't want to go outside and get connection from real people. And so it makes me think about what you said, Rachel, in one of our earlier shows, like the first or second show, you was talking about the pandemic and the children. So I can't even imagine if adults is doing this. What is being taught to our children? One lady said this that I just watched on TikTok. Hope they don't ban this, but anyway. And she said she was talking about the children, and she was like, If you're a mom, are you not worried about what your children are thinking if they come across this video? Because it's a challenge.
Yeah.
It's a challenge that's out. And everybody's doing this latest challenge, which is really invasive. Because I was like, what in the world? Oh, my God. And I'm not a judgmental person. Like, you can see all in the nooks and crannies. But it's a challenge. And they're like, no, cut this challenge off. But because I don't connect with people, and a lot of us probably don't like to connect with people because we don't want people to tell us the truth in love.
Yeah.
I love you, Nikki. Nikki's not like this. No, but I love you, Nikki, or Unika, whatever the case may be. Hey, maybe you're such a beautiful person. Maybe you shouldn't do this, or maybe you should do that. I don't want to hear that. So I cut people off that's even trying to help me become a better person. And then I keep resorting back to toxicity. And then it shows up in the counseling room. Why do I not have friends? I hear women say that a lot. I can't be friends with other women. I used to be one of those, but I like them.
Yeah. I think it's a trust issue. I think for some people, they can't trust because they've been hurt before. And I think the other word that popped into my mind when you were talking about that is that people look for acceptance where they can get it.
Wow.
And if you really look at it, and some people may get mad about it, but it is what it is. You have individuals that want to be accepted into the church. But because they get treated a certain way, they'll turn and run to a cult because they're being accepted.
Ouch.
So it's an acceptance thing.
And still get judged for joining the cult.
And still get judged for joining the cult. And so what is the person really looking for if they are staying away from that connection? For some individuals, I don't want to be a part of what other individuals say is normal because I consider myself abnormal. So I need to go where I'm going to fit in. I show my body on the internet because I can't do it with other individuals for the way that they think about me, and they're going to judge me. But this group of people that's doing, there is no judgment, and the people looking, there is no judgment. So now I'm being accepted. So I'm willing to sacrifice what may be morally, ethically right or wrong to get what I want because I don't want to feel lonely.
So it's an illusion, can be an illusion of connection.
It could be. Yeah.
I feel like I'm connected. You're accepting me. I get all the likes and the shares and the comments. So it's illusion of connection in my mind. I've created a connection, even though I don't know any of these people that's coming, and I feel more comfortable because I don't know you.
And you may even know them, and still it's the same thing. We've seen it for a number of years, going back into the late 70s, early 80s and 90s, where they talked about gangs. And a lot of the people that gangs created, that they recruited, were individuals that were kind of tossed out. Mom wasn't paying attention. Dad wasn't there. Hey, bring you in. Come on, little homie. I got you. Blah, blah, blah. But then once you get in there and they say, well, you got to do this, that, and the other. And then when you do it, now you're out on your own. They use you for that purpose to satisfy them or whatever they want to do. And then they cut you loose after that. And you still don't have that sense of connection. And it goes even so much. It goes so deep even in the schools. I've worked with the school districts in a lot of different ways. And this one particular school that I work with, I talked to one of the counselors and I said, well, what are the kids like really here? And she said, these kids are very different than other schools. And I said, why is that? They said, we don't have fights. I said, really? Nobody really? They said, no, very seldom do we have a fight. Because if you watch long enough, you'll see why. Because kids were making a conscious decision that group of individuals look like me. They got computers in their backpack. They've got dyed hair. They dress a certain way. So that group stayed with that group. The individuals that were different from them, that may have had no color in their hair, but they were all kind of really good friends, they stayed over this way. Individuals that may have fell into that LGBTQ community, they were all, so everybody stayed to themselves. They were isolating, but with their specific group so that they didn't feel lonely. And that way they say if people stay with each other, we don't have to fight with them. Almost like one of the other shows we did. I ain't got to say nothing to you. I ain't got to react because I got my group here. And they're accepting of me, so I'm okay with it.
Wow.
So is it then safe to say that I don't need to be accepted by everyone? Like I can be okay with just having certain connections with certain people?
And we do it all the time in society. And I feel as though that when we're looking at connections. It's good to have connections. We need to be connected to people that we understand and understand us. Just like the Bible says, iron sharpeneth iron. People understand where you've been. Shannon and I can make a connection with a lot of our friends because we were in the military and we all experienced some of the same stuff. Other individuals, well, I'm connected with individuals in my church because we all believe a certain way, but then bring that person that may not be saved into the church and see what happens.
Right.
They cut the connection. The person is reaching, saying, I need to get some power, but because you don't look like this strip, you're cut off. And so how much damage does society do by not letting people have connection when they really want it?
Yeah, that's good. I was just going to say, what is the source of connection? You pulled up that power strip. You know, what is that power strip plugging into?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? What is the ultimate source? You know what I mean? Of connection.
Yes.
You're created.
Yes.
You know what I mean? For connection.
Yes. I was gonna say, as soon as you brought that out earlier today, the very thing that came to me is something that I said in a previous show is when they were talking about power couples, and then you plug into them and you become just as dead as they are because of the source.
The source.
What are they even plugged into?
Right.
So being careful as to what you want to be connected to or plugging into so that you can receive the energy or the resources and the things that you need to. I guess that it goes into developing deeper connections. How do we develop deeper connections then with other people? Like, what is some of the strategies for that? And a couple of things that I have written down is one, you have to become vulnerable. Vulnerability, opening up so people can see the real you instead of covering it up with the half clothes, the half dressed, being half dressed, or all the makeup or whatever it is that you use to cover yourself up and not being true, and authenticity, being authentic to who you are, and then showing empathy, right? Just because you were different from somebody else, it's okay. If they're different from you, it's okay. We are not all intended to be the same. If we were, we all look alike. We all do the same thing. God created us all to be different. But the biggest, the best thing about that, though, we were created in His likeness. So if we are supposed to look like anything, we should be looking like Him in Christ. That's the thing.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
That's supposed to really connect us, right? That we should look alike.
Yeah, I think people talk each other out of connections. You guys are a phenomenal group of women that are very well connected. It could be another female that comes in and say, hey, I would like to be a part of you all. They become a part. But then when you start pulling too much power, now we got to disconnect you. Only thing you got to do is look at from my own perception, look at any reality TV show. The minute one person starts to get too many likes, too much attention, this, that, and the other, we go pull the plug on you. And if you want to go back even further, way back in when the Real Housewives of Atlanta started, I'm hoping I'm getting this individual right. I want to say her ex-husband was a baseball player, Winfield, Cherie.
Okay.
You see how long she stayed on there? Because she wasn't bringing the drama. Everybody else was. And then she was gone. So they unplugged her because you weren't giving us the energy that we needed with that.
She had skeleton.
Yeah. But that's what we do with people all the time. And in my line of work that I did in the past, that is one clear sign of individuals that are having maybe some behavioral health issues is when they start to isolate. They're not connected to anyone. They feel lonely. And so therefore they feel nobody cares about me. I'm all by myself. All these people are seeing it. And so what I would do is I would take my own life. That's the downside of not being connected, is you get so comfortable being alone that you're willing to take your life and not plug into the many connections that are just all over the place. You just got to find the right one.
Yes, that's where that negative self-talk becomes really loud.
Real loud.
It gets really, really loud, which is why the Bible tells man should not be alone.
Yeah.
I mean, we were created to have connection. That's really why we were connected. It's for connection.
And I want to break up, talked about the church earlier and how you can go to church and still be disconnected.
Yes, you can.
And that, you
Yeah.
know, and that's like so sad
Yeah.
to know that people feel that way, that they can come in a place full of love, full of God's presence, but not feel connected. And you cannot feel connected to like your fellow church member, but also to God.
Yeah.
Like you can be in his presence and still not have true connection.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I just wonder, you know, how, you know, you kind of pose the questions, but how do we begin to like build community, right? Because you said like if it's a piles of people, you find your tribe, you build connection. But what if you too afraid to do that? What if you know, have been so isolated that you don't even know where to begin to like find a tribe or to connect with God your Father?
When you talk about community, connecting with the community, and I know a lot of times when people think about this, the first place they want to go and connect is in the church. But when the church is not receptive of how you look or who you are, it makes the church a place where people never want to go. And so I was, when I was doing my research or just kind of looking up things, I'm like, what is the role of the community, right? And the support networks and providing a sense of belonging and resilience during challenging times. Like, what role would you all say that the community should play in people finding that tribe? Especially when the church is supposed to be that, but the church is not always that place of what's safety.
I mean, I think about the book of Acts. You remember when they first started the church after the Holy Spirit came, they all were together. They all had meals together.
Yeah.
They sold land so they can like make sure everybody had. Yeah, they had things. They made sure that they fueled the community. Like, I don't think the world is like that anymore. Where I feel like we are all I feel like we're isolated. Like I've been living in my house for 7 years. We wave at my neighbor. That's it. That's it. The one across the street, I make sure I'm like, Lord, if her trash don't come out, I'm gonna just see if, you know, she okay, because otherwise I don't see her. I don't see her. I don't think there's a sense of community. When I think of community, I think of the book of Acts, and I think it's also like fantasy. Like I know people want community, but where do you get community when people are so isolated?
And that goes back to what you said earlier, Kenya, about trust. People don't trust.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's sad, but I feel like part of the community is the reason why. The community is the reason why there is no community.
Yeah.
And isn't that sad? Like,
Very
it's
sad.
great, man. Because you think about growing up, they had community centers.
Yes.
Do we have that? Do we have?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
yeah, the why you have some gyms.
Yeah.
I know you all are posing that question, and I'm trying to think about it in my mind, but if you all don't mind just for a second, you all were speaking about earlier, basically like when people are lonely, they isolated. What I was hearing is they're in need of connection. They desire connection. They desire to be accepted. I think it's some of the things that I was kind of like hearing. And so usually we don't do this on Talk.Therapy.Heal, but I believe this is very important because when my husband and his coworkers talking about community, right? They did a community, like a panel, and it happened to be at a church. And it was on our date night. And he was like, well, babe, I know it's on date night. But I said, no, it's okay. It's okay. It was the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. But they had a panel of different people from the community. They had the youth that was in the sanctuary of the church. And it was more than one church that was there. No, this is fun. It was more than one church that was present. I think it was a Hispanic church and a Baptist. Like, it was beautiful. They took the parents with the same panel with different people, the same layout in the back. And they talked to them about just suicide prevention, human sex trafficking. And they brought someone who actually describes what we're talking about tonight, and a young lady. And she, oh my God, when she spoke, like, I was in tears, but she was longing for connection, longing for community. Her mom treated her a certain way, whatever, and she ended up in human sex trafficking. So I learned that night, and being in the great state of Texas, Number one, I learned that Houston, Texas is the top city for human sex trafficking. That's number one. Number two, I don't know what ended up happening, but I end up coming across this. This is what I say we normally don't do. But if you are a parent, I would highly encourage you. I seen this on the Breakfast Club 4 years ago, and it's a young lady. Her name is Tony D. Rivera. Tony, Tonid Rivera. And she tells her story about how she survived human sex trafficking. Not only did she survive, but she was then so far into it that they made her a recruiter. So she was sharing with them on the Breakfast Club, these are the things that you look for. So even though children are in the home with the parents, if they are disconnected, because we know now, parents be on their devices, children be on their devices. It's not a sit down at the table, eat dinner anymore, none of those types of things. And so to the point of what we're speaking, when a person's isolated, they look just like Kenya was saying, and this is with the young lady. So please go and watch it. Tony D. Rivera tells her story of surviving human sex trafficking and her purpose to help others. She's on Instagram as well. But families whose children have came up missing or loved ones will contact this lady, and she will go underground and she will get the information, and she has successfully saved people from that life. But what she said that you all were speaking to, and it really hit me like, oh my God. She was saying they basically come like a gang do, and whatever issue that the individual is having, they will be everything to them. Everything to them. Oh, you need a friend? Oh, you need a sister? Oh, come with us. So when they're rejected from what they think is supposed to be connection, these people answered that, but ultimately they use them. And one part that stuck out to me to what she said, and again, you all can hear it in interview, is how she would go and sit in church. Wow. And she would just sit there when she was a recruiter now. She would go and sit in church. And she said the prompt time and opportune to get someone that was in church is when they went to the altar. Wow. So she said it's certain times of the year that before school start, because parents can't afford, the school supplies, they can't afford clothes and whatever the case may be. I think she mentioned around graduation because the parents are pushing the kids to do something. They have a strained relationship. The child is isolated and or the parent. So you don't want to go to college, but your parents is forcing you because they're not listening to you, but we'll listen to you. And so they give them, she said she would sit there and she would say, oh, well, if you don't mind me asking, while the parent is occupied, not paying attention to their child, hey, come here. If you don't mind me asking, why did you go down to the front? And, somebody's still in their emotions when they come from the altar. Oh, you need some money? Oh, here's my card. But she would give them a bankroll, $500, $1,000. So when that parent start tripping, then guess what? I didn't gain your trust. So she tell you now how to identify those ways. So as we speak about loneliness and craving attention, I highly encourage adults, because it's not just the kids that they want. Adults, please be careful. You putting yourself out there on social media. Oh, you want to be a model? You beautiful. Oh, they sending you money. Hey, what's your cash out? They send you $2,000, $5,000. And when you fall on hard time, who you going to go back to? So be mindful of that. This is why I'm hoping that we get the help that we need, that you help identify as you're listening to the show, especially if you have children, especially. But please, if we can remember to link this, please go watch this. And she will spell out the whole method of what she did. Now she saves people.
Wow. Thank God that she changed her life, turned her life around, and was able to get out and now helping others. But that's scary because you're in a place in your community where you feel like you should be safe in the church. And then someone comes and preys on you like that. I mean, I hear it a lot, even with some of the kids that just recently, not too long ago, went missing in where I'm from, where I live, Waxahachie. and they get to the child's cell phone records and find that they've been texting or talking to somebody on social media
connection
that are connecting to them, giving them something that they need that they feel like they're not getting from home. We have to be connected. We cannot be on our devices when our kids are their lives is at stake.
Absolutely.
Their lives are at stake.
And I think one word that we're probably missing out on, and this is just a number of different things that I think we need to do to make connections. I think the very first one starts off with communication.
Oh, absolutely.
We've got to be able to talk to our children.
Yeah.
We've got to be able to talk to other individuals. Just because a person looks different from you, dresses different from you, you may find out that y'all have some commonalities, and that starts connections right there. When you form those connections in that manner, you can start to build trust. You can help individuals with ideas. You know what? You're saying that you're all alone, but we got some same commonalities. Why don't we get together and we start a band? Why don't we get together and build something? What is it that you're trying to do? I'll help you, you help me. And that's why I feel that we lost that sense of community, because a long time ago, it was about everybody helping each other to bring everybody up. Now it's all about I.
Yes.
And then we got to get back to that. It makes me think about my son. He's 8 and he got some new rollerblades, y'all. So we went to the skating rink and he's going around, but I watch him, and this is what I love about him. He went up to this a little boy. He said, "Hey, do you want to be my skating buddy?" And the boy was like, "Sure." And then for the rest of the time we were there, they just rollerblade together, right? Chasing each other, having fun. And that's what we got to get back to doing. Just that innocent of say, hey, like I see you, like, hey, you want to eat lunch together today? And be open, right? Like just, it is a risk to put yourself out there, but you may find out that someone is there to like extend the hand back to you.
Absolutely. That just reminds me too, when you were also talking about Kenya, having conversations. It's about engaging in that goes beyond the surface level interactions. That you allow for that genuine connection that it can flourish because you are genuine, you are authentic when you show up. You are being vulnerable because we have to be vulnerable in order to build relationships with others. The other thing is prioritize quality over quantity. Like go for a few meaningful relationships rather than spreading yourself thin across numerous superficial connections. So really digging in deep to get to know maybe one or two people versus talking about I got a following, got a community of followers. Those people don't know you and you don't know them. Right. I got 1 million followers. Really, what does that do for you? What does it do?
Absolutely.
You still sitting at home talking about you lonely, and you got 1 million people following you.
Right.
Absolutely. When I was my past job that I had, a coworker and I, we developed a presentation. It had to do with suicide prevention, but it can also go along with connections. And we developed a presentation called CARE: Conversations, Action, Resources, and Empowerment. We've got to have the difficult conversations that we don't normally have. And in doing that, having those conversations, you have to realize at certain times that conversation can't be all about you. What does this other person need? What are their desires? What are their wants? And then we all say it all the time. Actions speak louder than words. It's an old cliche, but it's the truth. We've got to show people that they're important, show that we love, show that we care, and that help wins over individuals in that area. And then provide the resources that are available.
Yes.
If a person says that they're hurting and they need a drink of water, you're not going to go give them some alcohol. You have to give them what they're asking for. And that builds trust. That shows that you say that you're going to do what you said you were going to do. And now that is a connection that's built with 2 people. And then if you get 3, 4, it just starts to double and go from that. And then empowering that individual. You can give them everything that they need, but if you don't give them a good word, if you don't invest in that individual, how far does that really go? And so I had an individual that told me one time, well, Mr. King, I don't really get this because I'm wondering, if you have the educational background to make things like that happen. And I said, education has nothing to do with it. I know people with a driver's license that can't drive. You've just got to be your authentic self in helping an individual and do it without any ulterior motive. Because the message that you're going to send to that person is somebody looked at me when I was looking different and now I look just like them or I look like I want to look like. And then the last thing I say is this, not trying to down the church at all. In the comment that I made earlier, yes, there are people within the church that have caused some people to go otherwise, but there are also people in the school districts. There are also people in public office that do the exact same thing. That's why we have to investigate. When we're making connections, check a person out to see if they're really who they say they are. You know, just because a person's dressing nice and they got a Gucci belt and different type shoes don't mean they got a whole bunch of money. They may be turning right back around, going to that store the next day with the tag still on it, but they already instilled in you what they wanted. You've got to check people out to a T to make sure that it's iron sharpening iron and not something else. I think one of the things that we really have to do as a generation is to pull people in. When fishermen go fishing, they cast the nets out. They may be fishing for tuna, but they may get some crabs up in there. You will find that even though you're looking for one thing, you may find something else that's good as well. And no matter what you pull up in that net, you may not eat that one particular thing, but it could be beneficial for somebody else. Make the connections. The net mentality is what the community needs. If I'm fishing for fish, I have a certain net. For certain fish, the net has to be very tight so that the fish don't go through. If the community doesn't tighten up like a net, we're going to continue to lose individuals.
Miss Nourish, what do you have? Because you wrote a whole dissertation.
I'm just going to say just true connection. You know what I mean? And what that looks like. And I'm just going to give kind of the show that I've been watching.
Okay.
But the gist of the show was to bring people together, right? Bring people together and put them in a situation to where they're building trust, building acceptance, building empathy, building vulnerability. And so these people on this show, they explored, right, various connections that they had. I really want to say the show.
I know what you're talking about.
The show is called Love is Blind.
Love is blind. Okay,
Love is blind.
I know. I'm like,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
But in and of itself, it brings people together. But not only that, they've broken down how to build connection by placing a wall in front of the people. And so the people are just communicating, right? First to get to know the authentic, you know what I mean? The true, the real person. And then like the next phase is they build, so as they're building the communication and the emotional connection in the pod, right? Is what they call it, right? They take that connection outside of the pod and they go on a trip to where they build a more physical, connection. You know what I'm saying? Connection, but they did it in phases. And I think that's what needs to happen with connection. We have to do it in phases, building the trust, bringing about the acceptance, incorporating that empathy and that vulnerability as well. I just thought that show was kind of a good, example, but on the flip side of it, you know, there was some toxicity. You know what I'm saying? That was there. There was some disingenuine, you know what I mean, behaviors and motives, you know what I mean, behind how folks connected, you know, on that show as well. But I also thought about, what are the barriers to connection? Because on that show, I mean, there were people that were like, I've never done this before. I've never shared, you know what I mean, this deep, dark, you know what I mean, hurt or pain, or I've never put myself out there. There were some surface people, you know what I mean? And then there were some people that were there to go deep and to build like that strong bond, that strong connection. But I think, what does true connection look like?
Right. That leads me or takes me into, and you kind of hit some of that with the strategies of building connections, right? And you said you hit a lot of it. One that authentic self-expression, like really truly being authentic with who you are, that helps you to build a connection with somebody. Cultural competence, because we're not all the same.
Yes.
And so I think that's with that pod, it helped people to connect without even having that as a barrier. But it also allowed you to connect with the person and really, I feel like, get to know them if you were genuine, right? Because that's one of the things you need to be genuine with that. Vulnerability and trust. And I said that earlier, you have to be vulnerable in order to build trust. Empathy and understanding. Like, I have to be able to hear your story and not judge you based upon your story, but then have some kind of understanding. Even if I don't agree with it, I understand it, right? Shared experiences and values. Like, we all have some shared experiences. Start talking about those. These are ways that we can connect with people. Share your experiences, share your values. If they don't line up, that don't mean you have to hate the person. It's okay. It's okay to have some differences about yourself. Respect boundaries and differences. Like, again, you cannot make somebody be who you want them to be. Respect that they have their boundaries and they have their differences and you have yours, and it's okay. And continue to grow and learn, because I always tell my clients that you're forever evolving. Forever evolving. And that just means you are forever growing, you are forever learning. If you stop evolving, then you cut yourself out from being able to build connections with people, healthy ones anyway. One last thing I want to say is practicing empathy, like putting yourself in someone else's shoes to try to understand their experiences. So going back to that, their experiences and their emotions, that helps to foster empathy and build strong connections.
Right. And we all have something, I feel, to bring to the table. And we don't realize, I think a lot of times we don't realize our value, we don't realize our worth. So because I don't feel that I'm good enough. I remember having a conversation with a friend. We served in the military years ago. And when I say beautiful, dainty, pretty white, just so, you look at her and be like, oh my God, you are so pretty. But I felt, because of my low self-esteem, that I wasn't good enough to even be called her friend or be in her presence and all these types of things, because she was just so pretty. And again, that's that comparison that we were talking about. And so I remember I sat down and I had a conversation with her and I was like, I thought that I shouldn't be your friend, as we're talking about isolation and being alone and all those things. And she was like, why? Like, what did I do? And I said, you didn't do anything. I said, you're just so pretty that I just thought that I'm not pretty enough like you, so I shouldn't. But again, that goes back to self. Exactly. And identity. That's what, we were talking about before. And she was like, what? She said, girl, you are beautiful. And this is the thing. When you have a person that's like that, as we're talking about connecting, you really have to be careful who you connect to, because she very well could have said, yeah, I usually don't hang around people that look like that. But people usually, or you got to drive this type of vehicle to be in my presence, because you have people that's like that. So I bring that up to say, be careful who you connect with. And then one of the things that we mentioned before we even start in one of our conversations is that there are individuals you will connect, going back to what Nikki was saying, quality over quantity. You will connect with anyone just to have a connection. You will go, and this man that you met online, or this woman that you met online, or, you could be a child and your parents ignore you, but this person show you attention, so you calling them mama and daddy. It's so much dangers in just connecting with someone just to have a connection. I would encourage that people, because I had to come to this point, is knowing your worth, identity. This is her identity, knowing your worth. That's her niche, her area. But then also knowing, once you know your worth and you've done the work, because I told them this as well. My prayer to God in December 2023 for 2024 was, God, I deserve to be around people who are good people. I deserve to be around people who will pour into me like I pour into you. So for those of you who are seeking identity and relationship and connection, so you're giving your everything, your paycheck, you can't even keep a roof over your head. And I was like, wait a minute, hold up. I deserve better than this. But I've been accepting anything just to have connection. So I want you all, like what you say, Rachel, let me borrow, pause. Write down in your notebook, do I just connect with people just to have a connection, or am I connecting purposely with quality people? So there's something to think about.
I love it. Y'all giving the people homework.
Look, like Reggie said, pause. Wow.
I want to say this as we're wrapping up. I know we're almost at time. There's degrees to connection.
Okay.
So that, as we're talking about, okay, you don't like to feel lonely. And so you want connection. So just be mindful that, there could be tiers of connection. So you can have acquaintance, you can have friends, you can have coworkers, and you can have family. It can be your best friend. So just, realize that there's levels to it. And you don't have to, attach so easily to anyone, but you can associate with someone. You can have a good time with them, but then have your core friends. So you can have intimate, you can have your inner, your outer, and your core, right? And so just keep that in mind that as you are building connection, everyone might not be tight, right? You might not be, super close, but it may be a good thing, right? So someone I heard, someone kind of said like this, like, we could be Facebook friends and that's a level of connection, right?
Yeah.
We could be going out to coffee and that's a level of connection. Then you could be my best friend when I see my intimate parts. So just realize that there's levels to building connections, healthy connections.
So when you say that, and when I'm thinking about the tiers to it, I guess do we need to break down how open then or vulnerable you would be in each of those tiers? Because if you're saying I can be your Facebook friend, I ain't telling you all my business, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe you are.
Because it's Facebook. Yeah.
Well, but that's I know, but that's not a healthy way. You should be telling all your stuff on Facebook. Let me just say on the
Any
socials.
socials.
Right, any of the socials. Those people don't know you. You putting your world out there. So there's still the levels to the depthness of how I'm going to share or what I'm going to share with you. So if you are that best friend level, I'm telling you, like you said, all those intimate parts, I'm telling you everything. But if we going out and have coffee and that's just all we do is go to have coffee, we discussing coffee.
Right. Surface. Surface conversation.
Yes, surface. So I know I said earlier too about connections and going beyond the surface level. But like she said, there are tiers to it. Everybody is not supposed to be in your inner circle.
Yeah.
They're not. I remember our Pastor Patricia from Power Change, she talked about seasons of friends and how people were seasonal friends, and you had those who would fall off, and kind of like what you said in one segment, Kenya, about the leaves. Some people, when the wind changes or wind blows hard, they'll fly away. They weren't intended to stay. And then you have some, and I'm not doing this justice as what she said, but you have some who are like branches, they're rooted. They're connected to the root. And those are the ones that when the wind blows hard or whatever comes and knocks up against it, they remain. Those are the ones that you want to share your intimate parts with.
Yeah.
So levels of connection.
Yes.
Levels of connection.
There are levels.
Wow. That's amazing.
And I think that can definitely be illustrated because I believe everybody in their life, they have connections in different areas. And those levels just depends on what that person has, what they need. And I'll just let you know, like my best friend, I've been knowing him since high school. And I can call him right now with just about any problem. He can put me in the right direction. I need somebody to know something about vehicles. Oh, King, I got a guy. Oh, I need somebody to do home security. Oh, I got you. I can do that. It's the connection level of that. But he's one person. I know Jake's probably going to be watching this pretty soon. He will tell individuals. He's like, no, man, King, I'll get down on him like that. I know this guy. We cool with it, but no, that ain't, we don't go that route. And so you have to do your due diligence and listen to your heart, your mind, and your soul when you're around people, because people will tell you who they truly are.
Right.
You just have to listen and watch long enough.
Exactly.
Jay would sit back and tell me at times, he'd say, you know what, you're the only one I've told this. You're the only king. I'm doing this. Don't tell nobody this. And we even had to break down. I had to tell him, baby, yeah, I knew that. He told me not to tell you until it was the right time. But that's that best friend, that level. So yes, those levels are there. You just have to do your part to know what level the person is on.
Who has access
Yeah.
to certain levels
Because
in your life
Jesus did it.
now.
He picked them 12 disciples, but he knew one of them on the street.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Supposed to been a
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
It was a degree.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So we're gonna wrap it up here, y'all. Do we want to leave the people with one last tip? Something quick that we can leave them with. Now, can you? You
I ain't saying that.
stole the show the last time and you shut us all down.
Right. It's like,
You got enough for us? Or
No, I'm just saying it's always good to be connected with good people.
Okay.
We were made to be connected.
Yes. I'm thinking about the word, like you were saying, man are not made to be alone. We are not. But then also, you should know them by their fruit. So
good.
before you connect with someone and give them certain access to certain levels in your life, observe them and know them by their fruit.
That's good.
Not what it look like, nice and shiny apple. Cut up into that joker. Take some time and see if it's healthy or if it's dead.
Because it is what it is.
Yeah. I would just say purpose.
Mm.
You know, what's the purpose behind the connection?
Wow.
You know what I mean?
And I would say nurture what's meaningful to you.
That's good.
We thank you all so much for joining us here at Talk Therapy Heal. We hope that something that we said tonight has impacted you in a way, again, that will cause you to spring into action, make change in your life, and become the person that you desire to be, who God created you to be. Don't forget to hit that like button, that subscribe button, that notification bell so that you'll know when we are live or when we are on. Again, thank you. And we'll see you next time here at Talk Therapy Heal.
Bye.